as we start going, I start kicking to kind of plane them out, get things going. All of a sudden, I kind of feel kind of the most awkward and scary feeling that I possibly can do, just kind of being engulfed and just in finding out that I'm being very constricted and that he and I are in the middle of the parachute.
Welcome to the Calm in the Chaos podcast, where we discuss untold heroic experiences and dive into the mindset of the Navy's elite rescue swimmers. Hosted by former U.S. Navy Aviation Rescue Swimmer, Mount Everest solo summiteer, and best-selling author Brian Dickinson.
Well, today I am super pumped. One of my best friends, Justin Tate, had the honor of serving with a couple deployments with HS2. He spent 28 years as a U.S. Navy Aviation Rescue Swimmer, had a lot of unique experiences. Like, some people will go their whole tour and never really have a rescue. You do a crap ton of stuff in the helicopter, but you went all extremes, all kinds of cool things. So I always talk about your stories to other people. Retired Master Chief, and just your common badass. It's great to see you. Thanks for joining.
Brian, I appreciate the opportunity. And, once again, for the crowd, what you are doing in an effort to continue to help others, even not in a military capacity, but yet in the private sector, and using your own personal adventures to do so as well, man. Greatly appreciate it. But thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's kind of what we do. So for those that don't know you, which there's probably one or two out there, because there's billions, if not trillions, watching this podcast right now, or maybe tens or hundreds, I don't know. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, so a little bit about myself is, grew up in Miami. We'll kind of tell you one of those, family history of Navy veterans, grandmother, grandfather, father. So kind of felt that the need to kind of follow suit, but didn't really know where I was going and what I wanted to do. So we've all heard stories of, hey, my recruiter screwed me over. My recruiter screwed me over. Mine's kind of a little different. Go to MEPS, go to see the classifier, waiting to go in there. Last thing I saw was, hey, Top Gun, look around there. Hey, something seems pretty cool. But here comes running out and goes, hey, you like jumping from helicopters? Yeah, man, we do it 6 period every day.
Right.
Sure. But that was a trajectory that I had no idea was going to lead to where I am today. And with some of, like you had said, the adventures, the experiences, the education, the challenges, the highs, the lows, everything along that line that goes with the path is never knew it was going to be what it is. And oh my goodness, the classifier definitely put me on a trajectory that didn't know that I needed to be on. And, did 28 years, the majority of it on the West Coast. To kind of go through some of it, started obviously through the schools, and first HS2 with you, went to HS10 as an instructor, went to HS6 shortly after that, with the whole Twin Towers ordeal. Ended up overseas for that aspect. Once left 6, converted over to the Romeo, started that training platform up at HSL 41, which converted to HSM 41. Did HSM 77, and then once 77, all I did was staff duty from there. So ComNav, Veripac, HSM 41 as the Master Chief, then to the wing, then over to the winglet, and then retired out of there. So kind of a fun-filled adventure. Not everybody gets a chance to stay in one place for the most part. I was very fortunate enough to, and you know what? It's been a wild ride.
Yeah, no, it's been fun to watch you. It was cool. Like, I think, I don't know if it's the day before or like a few days before I was heading off to Everest back in 2011. You and your son came up to Seattle. You were were you riding one of the ships up or down? There's something there. They just needed some crewmen.
So no, they actually didn't need crewmen. I was sent back early off deployment to stand up the squadron and get the
Mhm.
spaces and everything ready to go. And it was kind of a bummer because I was looking forward to the Tiger cruise from Hawaii back. So, being the fact that they were sending me out a lot earlier, they allowed me to take my son on the ship's portion of Tiger Cruise for the most part, which was from San Diego up to Everett.
Hmm.
So we were luckily, lucky enough to do that one. Didn't get all of the aviation aspect because all the aircraft were off and the airway
Mhm.
flew off and everything like that. But the fact that he was able to ride the ship up was absolutely amazing. So
Yeah, that was
it was
cool.
neat. It was neat
Pretty
him
cool.
having that opportunity.
It really is so unique. I mean, so many people, especially kids, I guess it's bring your kid to work day, and that's like an extreme
Yeah.
example. But it was cool that you reached out, and I'm like totally packed, ready to go climb, and then hey, let's go to the Cheesecake Factory. I'm like, oh, sweet. Anytime you're down,
Hey,
let's
that was
do
awesome.
that.
That was awesome.
Let's back up and go to through SAR school. So you graduated high school in what, 92?
Graduated in 92.
When did you go to boot camp and then SAR?
So boot camp was October of 92 and then um, ended up in rescue swimmer school graduating in April of 93.
Okay.
So roughly the March to April timeframe in of 93 in rescue swimmer school.
Nice. What are your memories of rescue swimmer school?
Oh my goodness. Shell shock. Boot camp was one thing. Um, Boot camp was one thing, and then at the end of the day, this was a whole nother one because it's either make it or break it, and there were some challenges in there. Um, back then it was, team A, team B, team C, and started off on in the alpha, and well, ended up getting rolled, into Bravo, and it was like, whoa.
Would you get?
Some challenges. Oh, it was life saving. They
Yeah,
said that
that's
my hand
common.
wasn't my yeah. They said my hand wasn't on the elbow as appropriate to.
It's probably tough
It
with
was
those
the
little hands that you have.
well, big head, small arms. I don't know how it works out, but yeah, it was eye opening and definitely humbling.
Yeah.
Not that I had anything like this going on prior to joining the military. This was a challenge that I never knew I needed, wanted, or desired. I was never
Mhm.
really a big swimmer. And jumping in here and now swimming for time for survival to continue on to the next day. It was something where you ultimately had to find your inner being and your inner drive to be successful. And I mean, I know you understand that, but and the majority of the other swimmers and anybody else that has faced any type of challenge along this line knows that sometimes you don't know how the outcome is going to go, but you're going to end up making sure that you are completely exhausted and leaving everything out there in the pool on the grinder or whatever the deal is to get it taken care of. But the best part about it is obviously the whole team kind of pulling together. Um, with some that were causing problems that made us march, and we caused, we did some stupid stuff while we were in there, which obviously got the instructors' attention way more than what we ever wanted, and we had a lot of quality time together with them for this one day.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, the camaraderie that going through these challenges, both from a physical perspective, but also from the mental perspective of the classroom aspect too, that you're trying to go through completely exhausted, um, just coming out of the physical component, and then once you're done with the classroom, going back into another physical realm. You're having to figure out how to put all of your emotions and your mental capacity and your mindset and able to flip the switch to kind of go from one to the other to kind of pull this in, not realizing that even just that aspect was setting you up for your future endeavors, life, not just the military side of it. I mean, yeah, you get employment and your flights could go from something mundane to something pretty crazy, back to something else. Your mission set keeps changing due to things that decide to show up and want to kind of join your strike group or this, that, and the other. I mean, it's mind blowing how you have to kind of compartmentalize, and then two, mind change just a bit to kind of get yourself set for the ready one for the one or whatever's next. And it kind of happened. Well, obviously when we were ready to jump into probably the rescue or whatever, but it played huge part in when I was called to go and do the rescue. Because things didn't go as planned. We were doing other stuff and things like that. Oh yeah.
Being such a high attrition rate in rescue swimmer school, I mean, people are dropping out left and right, and then the focus comes on you because you're the last man standing for the most part, or the last group. What do you think was different about you that got you through? You'd never been through anything like this before. I don't know. I'll just let you go. What do you think is different about you?
I'm not different. I'm just an average Joe Schmo.
I'd say
the things,
average.
Well, a lot more below average. Remember, I don't know if our hands can reach that low, but it's just finding the drive and the dedication and the desire and the willingness to succeed. I mean, and maybe the mindset back at that time was, I don't want to fail.
Yeah. Yeah. Fear of failure.
I've already failed. I failed once, with getting rolled back, or what I considered failure. But at the end of the day, it ended up proving strong. So it's just determination, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, it's something different for everybody. When I have these conversations, I think back in our day, it was definitely a fear of failure. A lot of us didn't necessarily come from a environment that we would want to go back to. So then a plan B was never an option. So you're gonna, die trying. And this that determination, because there's something different about the people that make it through, and there's always some that maybe should have made it, and then maybe some that shouldn't have, but exceptions to the rule. But for the most part, there's definitely a differentiator, and it's unique to each individual. I don't know if there is a common thread because there's so many variables involved, but it's an interesting exercise, I guess, just to kind of unpack your own mindset, or even in that time frame. I mean, you were 18, 19 years old, 18, right?
18, yeah.
Yeah. And your brain is not fully developed until 25. So, I mean, maybe good, right? Ignorance is bliss, but the training is a traumatic environment. And if you're not used to that and you're getting into that, it takes a lot of mental strength to figure out a reason to just wake up each day and to get through every evolution, break it into small attainable chunks. And guess what? At some point, you did enough and you passed, and you had an amazing career because of it.
Yeah, and it's you didn't know it at the time, but man, I'm very biased. It was the best job around. And and some of the best people around, and it has taught me a lot, especially with adaptability, problem solving, ultimately figuring out how to survive, because you're in a situation where if you don't, you're not coming back. Potentially.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, every flight is a potential traumatic event. and you never truly know what you're launching for. I mean, how many times have you been diverted for maybe a search, maybe go do a dipping sonar over here because there's a potential, or double SC or medevac or whatever. You never know. So you're prepared for everything. And you're right, your
Yeah.
adaptability is pretty insane. I referenced Malcolm Gladwell's book Blink in my book Calm in the Chaos, and it's that adaptive unconscious. It's that ability, when you're always working at such a high level, it's like first responders and special ops, military, you're able to respond without even a sec. You don't even think. It's already there. You're so used to just doing it. You just do it. It's the reason that you can survive in these, intense situations, but not only survive, but thrive and help others live, and probably a good segue into your F-18 ejection recovery.
Man. Yeah, once again, you never know what you're going to get into. I mean, because brand new, we were only about 8 days into deployment, and it's dark out. It was nighttime,
I know
and
I
so
just hot swapped with you.
yeah. That was it's wild how things kind of work out. It's an interesting ordeal. So this is where all the adaptability and everything kind of comes into play, because we were just supposed to go do our standard plane guard mission, be the the lifeguards of the carrier strike group, and um, we got diverted probably about 15 miles behind the carrier to kind of go do some ASW and dip the sonar, make sure everything's kind of cleared around, and that'll come play here a little later on in the story. But all of a sudden, as you know, we've got the dipping sonar down in the water, and tower's yelling at us, "Hey, I need you to go this direction." And then as time went on, as I'm still trying to bring the sonar up, everybody's kind of trying to get going, but can't go anywhere yet. We're still in the hover.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, John Wonky, the first crewman, he's all getting everything ready to go, this, that, and the other. And I'm still sitting here with my finger on the button, kind of going, "Hey, I'm the one that should be getting ready, but, getting ready for something. I still don't know what it is." And finally, as we were getting the sonar seated, the information came out. Hey, man overboard was the first call.
Mm-hmm.
So as well as I do, and every other rescue swimmer, that kind of puts your mindset into something. Hey, all right, guy just kind of fell overboard, float coat cranial. All right, cool. Get this going. And then as we started flying the direction and getting things situated, changed a little bit. Pilot, man overboard. All right, never heard that one before.
Yeah, that's weird.
What is that? Kind of thinking in my mind, just kind of putting together, hey, pilot walking the aircraft kind of fell over. I don't know. At no point did anybody mention anything about an ejection or crash or anything along that line. So we go over and we go to fly on top and do the wind line SAR pattern. And as we're scrutinizing everything, and I finally get ready, we see nothing, except the pilot in the water. And we just see him with a flashlight, just kind of giving a little bit of a signal. But that was it. So it's kind of confirming my thought process of, hey, man, it's just the pilot.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Still have no idea that an aircraft is anywhere involved with this. So as we go and we come on a short final going into the hover before they lower me down, take another last look. It's just the pilot. There's nothing else in the water. All the lights are on. We lit this place up as good as we can do. And it's night. We've got a pretty big swell going on. We're somewhere probably within about 800 miles of Hawaii-ish. So the bottom's nowhere to be found. So at the end of the day, we sit there. I finally get everything ready to go. They go to lower me down. As I get down closer to the water, I start smelling JP5. Okay, wait. This changes everything.
Mhm.
What do we got? So sure enough, get down there, start looking around. Still no parachute, no life raft, no nothing. Okay, go swim towards it. Get to the survivor. Aircraft kind of moves back. Once I grab his SV2 at the time, I go and I kick a seat pan, and I'm like, uh-oh. And right when I kick the seat pan, life raft comes out. Oh crap! Now it's a game changer. Okay, life raft's out. Where's the parachute? Where's the parachute? Where's the parachute? Still don't see it. Not anywhere around. Okay, so as as we start going, I start kicking to kind of plane them out, get things going. All of a sudden, I kind of feel kind of the most awkward and scary feeling that I possibly can do, just kind of being engulfed and just in finding out that I'm being very constricted and that he and I are in the middle of the parachute. Okay, this is not good. Didn't see it from above. Didn't see it when I was in the water. What is in and the Sea Wars? They already did their job. It wasn't attached to him.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, so this was the interesting part. So kind of some points of your book and everything along that line, and some of the things that when you and I have had conversations of, hey, military training, what comes into play? Well, we only did this once in rescue swimmer school. Was in the shallow end. Everybody gets in. Everybody gets in. The whole class holds around, and somebody jumps in the middle of the parachute. They throw the parachute all around you, and they teach you how to get out. It's not sexy. It's not anything grandiose ultimately. And I don't know how I remembered this, but it's like, hey, find where the wind's coming from, find the wind line, and small little movements. Let the current, let the wind, let everything else kind of just take it away from you and kind of
Mhm.
go. Well, at that point, and I remember completely and vividly looking up, finding out which direction the helicopter's in the hover at, and trying to go that direction as slow as I possibly can, hoping that the swells and the wind would take the parachute away. And don't get me wrong, my heart is racing, and
Mhm.
it kind of fell out of my chest for a little bit, especially right when I ended up in there, and you had kind of the oh crap moment,
Yeah.
and then that's where you're kind of you're trying to keep yourself out of the fight or flight type of ordeal because you need to stay calm. You got to think a little bit about what's going on and where things are going, and how I pulled that training bit for just doing it once in to remember how things are going. It's all it takes is once, and it's
Mhm.
embedded somewhere in there and gets triggered at some point, at least from my personal experience.
Yeah.
So so that was kind of when I talked earlier about the survival aspect of it. Man, I didn't for a good minute or so, I didn't know if I was coming back.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I've got this guy with me, and it was one of those where it was like, how do we get? Because if the parachute has us both entangled and it starts sinking, it sinks like an anchor.
Yep.
And so trying to make sure that now it's how do I get him and I in that aircraft? And so kind of worked through it. Once the parachute was clean, did my disentanglement, and it was kind of funny where we did chuckle for just a little bit. After we got through all that, come to find out the helicopter was losing us because of the swells. Um, and when we finally called in for pickup, um, we sat there, and right when I go to grab the hook and I go to connect it, the hook goes flying out of my hand, and he looks back at me and goes like, "What happened?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm here with you." And so he kind of looks at me. He wasn't too thrilled with that, but at the end of the day, we finally got in there. We finally got up to the aircraft. It wasn't until we got back, right, that we found out what actually happened. And so
Mhm.
this is why some of the things didn't work, and this is why it's kind of one of those where you take the information as it comes in, and not try to jump to the end and just go one step at a time to try to make sure that you're dealing with what's there. The F-18 was coming in for final, and the hook skipped. He didn't go full throttle, so the hook never grabbed. He goes over the edge. The aircraft goes over. He ultimately ejected horizontally. So the parachute never had time to open up. He pretty much skipped across the water. Come to find out, even though it's like, hey, you got any issues? How are you feeling? How's your back? How's this? Didn't moan, didn't do anything along that line, because that obviously would have changed a drastic thing. Didn't even realize that it was, well, at least at the time, until I was already in the water. But it was one of those where even at that time there was a determination of whether you used the medevac litter or not. And with
now
all
it's
this,
mandatory, right?
yeah, any type of an ejection. So we sat there and made the determination and just went and took them on up. But it was crazy once we realized how this happened, which is why we didn't see the parachute. Parachute was just underneath the water. It wasn't showing itself. It did not balloon. It did not canopy. For whatever reason, the seat pan and the life raft didn't do its job because it didn't probably have time to do so. So there was quite a few things that went into play, really added challenges. But once again, you take it one step at a time. You follow the procedures that are at hand. And if you run into something, start back at the top and kind of work your way back down until you make sure everything's kind of good to go. But it was a challenge. But oh my gosh, how rewarding! From a confidence perspective of, wow, I can do it. I can adversity. I can work through it. And you take that into life and go from there. So, and that even adds to all the different aspects that there are, especially if you're talking just from our job perspective, the combat search and rescue, the starboard D rescue swimmer stuff, the medevac, moving into today's aspects of, more of the mission systems perspective, gun shooting, things along that line. I mean, it's all pretty interesting where you've got to have the ability to adapt.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's cool. Like, I'd imagine like it probably haunts you to this day that we hot swapped like 15 minutes earlier and you took that rescue away from me. That's got to be hard to live with. But that's cool.
Brian,
That's
there are some sleepless nights. I will have to say there are some sleepless nights.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know like the afterburner on the 18 had kicked in and it like arced over back towards the superstructure. It was like this crazy scenario. So I think even in the tower there, it splashes down on the other side. They're trying to figure out what the heck just happened. All we know is man in the water, so yeah, and you're as green as they come, right? So that's unusual in
Yeah.
itself.
If we were in starboard D, we possibly taken out by the kind of an interesting ordeal how that whole evening kind of panned out.
Yeah, it is.
So the mindset, it's ultimately kind of goes back to the adaptability for what's at hand. Another story which still mind-blowing how we kind of pulled through this, won't drag out, but we were set to go do a SAR mission we were in the Gulf. We're going to go do SAR practice training in Kuwait, and the last minute, just prior to walking to the aircraft, we were told, "Hey, you're doing a medevac. So instead of north into Kuwait or south to an oiler, go pull a guy off that is appendix busted and bring him back here." And what should have taken probably 20 minutes took over an hour and a half to get the medevac litter and the crew, a crewman and a flight surgeon down to go assess, and so you got your mindset, and plus it was like an hour transit down south, so you're kind of getting prepared, doing everything like that, but not knowing exactly what you're faced with. And it was another adverse aspect to where we're pulling up. We're trying to pay attention, got to stay high. A new guy flying in the right seat. He's acuity is not where it needs to be, so got to keep walking him off. We're point, and then all of a sudden the aircraft would just kind of fly back. Um, a couple times I had to lower a swimmer down, and next thing I know, they're over the water because we're not holding a steady hover because the hovers up, and it was kind of putting the swimmer and the flights and the litter kind of threading a needle with all of the stuff that was on the behind the superstructure, bumpers and 55-gallon drum. And what normally is a pretty decent size area, just kind of almost about a third the size, and threading the needle to try to get these guys down there. And state didn't help. All their lights didn't help. Asked them to shut them off so that we could just use night vision goggles. And some of the radio calls after that were pretty interesting. You want us to do what? Yeah. But it's getting your mindset shifted and trying to think, to problem solve, to get the mission completed. It's unbelievable. But yeah, the crazy part is this was another one to where we were watching the fuel state pretty closely because we weren't going to make it back to the carrier, so they had to sortie ships to come and kind of meet us at whatever point we could kind of get there. So it was what should have taken, if 20 minutes took, way longer, especially including transit time and everything. So
Yeah, you never know what you're getting into until you get on site, and then it's like, okay. And the fact that the Navy, it's just so coordinated, like divert this ship here, close the space so we can, fuel up so we don't, pick up this person and then we all end up in the ocean. So yeah, it's a pretty well-oiled machine. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And yeah, and you're right. You guys were doing like a SAR training in Kuwait, but then got diverted. Yeah. That's what squadron was that?
6, HS6.
Very cool. So being a SAR swimmer is the ultimate form of serving others. You are putting your life on the line to help someone that you don't know, someone who's potentially trying to kill you. But it's ultimately you are serving that person or many people. I found, as the more interviews I do, we all tend to do this. It's just a natural trait, or maybe it is a natural trait now that was, placed in us and hammered in us in our training and our experiences. How do you feel that I know you have a great family and, serve them well, and 2 great daughters and a son, awesome wife. But I'd say just in your normal life, how do you feel that you are still serving others in this capacity?
Even in the civilian side of things, not doing anything close to what it was. But
Yeah,
it's just trying to do right by others, to the best that you can. No matter how little it is, help push somebody off the side of the road, in the middle of traffic, or giving somebody $1 or whatever the deal is. I mean, it's just trying to help out in that manner. I give out a penny here and there.
Yeah, I'll take some money.
Yeah, unless you're my daughters and they drain my wallet, but it's a bank account, so it's pretty wild.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And the example there is you're driving down the road, someone's having some sort of car issues, or maybe there's a crash, or maybe, there's always opportunities to serve. The difference is, do you drive by or do you step forward? When everyone else is stepping back, you're stepping forward. And I think that's just a natural trait from a first responder, or the Navy's first responders, I guess, through the Navy's lifeguard.
Oh, absolutely. And it's kind of hard to turn off.
Yeah, and nor should you.
So
unless it's dangerous, but even then, you're trying to do good. All right, you want to do a 1-minute scenario? 1-minute hypothetical scenario to see how Justin Tate thinks when you get the call.
Okay.
Okay. So you are flying around, still in the Navy, you're still young, no gray hair. In fact,
Wow,
in fact, you even have hair.
that's a while ago, man.
Okay, your scenario is it's a cave diving rescue. Okay, the scenario is divers exploring an underwater cave system become trapped after a collapse. Rescue swimmers must navigate tight, dark, and unfamiliar passages to extract the victims. This is all you know. You're flying out towards, we can do it up at Advanced SAR in Astoria, Oregon. There's some caves you're going to go in to get these trapped people out. What are you thinking? You just got this call.
What are you not thinking about? You know, obviously, how far down? Is it even feasible? You know, you don't really have the ability to do anything at great lengths to see what the realm of possible is. Because obviously you get down there, your initiative and your drive is going to want to bring everybody back, but it's
Reality.
the reality sits in on ultimately, can you or can't you? Because we are very limited to the surface side of things. And, you know, not having a known of where the maps are or underwater, you know, visibility and things along that line. But then again, I don't know if it's day or night or anything along that line, but still gets a little darker, especially down in the cave, you know, things that if it's right there towards the edge, yeah, why not give it a shot? But if it's anything further in, I don't know if that's an ability to kind of even have, not knowing where air pockets are or what the layout is in there. God, it pains me to even say that. But that's kind of a reality mindset at hand.
Yeah, and I mean, you're mapping it out as you're flying out. You have limited information, even like your own rescue that you went through at the 18. It's until you actually get on scene, then that map in your mind becomes a more reality, and you can actually reassess. But at least you're not going into it just blind. So good.
Yeah, man, that was a doozy. Why don't you just kick me in the shins? Why don't you?
It's all right. I chat GPT'd a bunch of different, like very like close to impossible scenarios just to throw all my friends off guard.
Well, I appreciate you. Question mark.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, Justin, so you've had incredible experiences that not many can relate to and not really even understand. It's so unique. With all of your 28 years of experience, and beyond, what type of wisdom would you leave our listeners with?
Don't underestimate yourself. That's the worst thing that anybody could ever do. Don't doubt yourself. Give it a shot. You fail, you fail. You know, I mean, because at the end of the day, we don't know what our pathway is. We might think that it's going this direction, but ours actually might be something else. We don't know what it is. We just have to figure out and go down whichever route it's kind of taken us. But don't underestimate yourself. Don't shortchange yourself. Go for it. Give it a shot. You might be surprised.
Yeah, it's great wisdom. And it's great wisdom from someone who's walked it out. You came in as a little schmorker, 18-year-old, used to have hair and everything, didn't drink. You were like straight shooter until you were 21. I mean, when you did your winging party, you slammed a pitcher of Sprite when everyone else was drinking a pitcher of beer, and you just ate a balut. So it's like, but you.
Thanks, Strick.
Question mark. Yeah, but you're right. You never truly know what you're capable of until you're pushed beyond your perceived limits. And I think that's a short, I don't know, a shortcoming from most humans. They just don't know. And then it's in rescue swimmer school, you're pushed so far beyond what you ever even imagined what you could do. And then that's even nothing compared to once you get out in the fleet and you just have all these different mission sets and just different ranges of knowledge. And then you're actually, like yourself, called on a man overboard, which it ends up being, it was a man and he was overboard, but it was everything other than you would actually imagine a man overboard, like a standard man overboard being. So no, it's really good wisdom. I hope people listen to that and at least push themselves to be uncomfortable, be okay with failing. You learn so much from your failures, and it's okay. It's okay to fail.
It is, and unfortunately, and even to us nowadays, it's don't like to fail, but that is crazily enough, as we all know, some of the best learning that you can do.
Yeah. I've never personally
because
failed before, but I've heard that it's a good learning experience.
not everybody's as perfect as you, So we strive for that, but I don't know
appreciate
if
you
we'll
sharing
ever
your
reach that
vulnerability with
ability.
that.
Yeah, no kidding. No
And
kidding.
Tate, one of my best friends. I'm so grateful that you joined us today. You've just had such amazing experiences, and you're just such a gift to have in my life personally. I know that you've touched so many people in such a positive way. So thank you so much for being on the show. And for everybody else, thanks for joining, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Calm in the Chaos podcast. Please subscribe to be notified of future episodes, and if you enjoyed what you just heard, please leave a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. Until next time, get out there and make a difference so others may live.